This is the third generation of the Mercedes-Benz GLS, and with the addition of letter S since its previous generation facelift model, it now complies with the Mercedes' new nomenclature for its SUVs, sort of announcing that this is the S-class of SUVs. But is it? Let's find out. The GLS has grown in size and is now notably larger than its predecessor. What I noticed, I wanted to show you. I need to pop the hood for that. So, interesting thing I noticed was the use of carbon fiber in an SUV. So, this is definitely not for weight reduction purposes, and it is surely for strengthening and stiffening things up for better impact resistance. And good to see some exposed carbon fiber inside a hood of a production SUV, and that too a Mercedes. The side, it is rather simplistic, conservatively old school to say, but at the same time very intimidating. What I love about the side is these wheel arches. They really add that muscularity for the GLS. At the rear, you get the distinct LED tail lamp design, which is common with the GLE, which we saw previously, and also as low as the GLB model as well. But what's really striking for the rear are these tires, the rear tires. Yes, let me read out the specifications for you. It's 315/40 R21, 315 tires. So that's huge. For comparison's sake, even the Lamborghini Urus, which is spec'd with 21-inch rims, has the same exact tire specification, which is of 315/40 R21, and that says a lot. Ask any enthusiast. If you give them wide and fat tires, they'll be really satisfied. Right, now let's get to the driving. Wow. 0 to 100 in 6.3 seconds, but we'll get to that number later. What the GLS feels is something else. And if I had to describe the entire driving experience in one word, that word would be lordly. You know, that's a new word. You always keep hearing king of the road. So I thought I'll redefine king of the road by calling it lord of the road instead. So it also amazes me to see how easy the GLS is to drive, and the overall visibility, at the same time maneuverability inside city limits, it is truly easy to get accustomed to. So this is for the self-drive audience. You will really get used to the size and the girth of the GLS. Now it's also important to talk and discuss the platform of the GLS. So since last 5 odd years, Mercedes has standardized 4 platforms for its passenger cars, namely the modular front architecture platform, modular rear architecture, modular high architecture, and the modular sports architecture. So the GLS is based on the modular high architecture platform. So a lot of people who always keep comparing to the GLS to the S-Class, S-Class is based on the MRA platform, which is a different platform. So there goes, so technically you cannot call the GLS the S-Class of SUVs. But we'll get to the other relativity points with the S-Class in the review as we proceed. This really suits the character of the car, and now it's actually time to talk about the engine performance. So this engine we have here is the OM656, and oh well, this is a fast motor, and the specifications 700 Newton meters. It's a lot. So to describe in simple terms, this is the most powerful production diesel engine by Mercedes of all time. Not only the way it develops power, but also the sound. It's a typical straight 6 sound, and you really love the motor for its sound as well as the smoothness. It's extremely silky smooth. I don't really know whether this sound is being captured in the microphone right now. Oh, but yeah. OM656. The other engine on offer is the 450 petrol, and that itself is a good motor. It's again a 6-cylinder and it's a very powerful one, but it is hybridized. Is the diesel. I haven't driven the 450 to be honest, so it might be biased to say so, but in large SUVs, particularly the size of the GLS, I would really prefer diesels in SUVs over however powerful the petrols are, because the torque of the diesel is unmatched, and that is really an argument over when it comes to the engine option, in my opinion. So like all the new age Mercedes diesels, this also uses the AdBlue technology, AdBlue injection, for cleaner emission performance. And so that really is what I really like. Instead of banning diesels, make them cleaner. I really love diesels. I would never want them to go away due to environmental reasons. And this OM656 straight 6 diesel is one of the good examples of having a long-term strategy for diesel engines. Coming to the gearbox, so this is the typical 9G-tronic 9-speed gearbox which Mercedes keeps on generously using across its lineup, and it is definitely a smooth one, very supportive in city. At high speeds also it develops a good amount of pace in the RPM throughout the rev range, so no real complaints. And I really haven't used the paddle shifter so much, considering the character of the car. Character of the engine is still very sporty. Speaking of sporty, there is no sport mode. This is again another SUV which has omitted the sport mode. The 4-wheel drive, the 4MATIC unit. So in this generation, Mercedes has kept it rear biased. Make no mistake, it is a full-time 4-wheel drive system, but at the same time it is rear biased, and I think this does a good job overall in splitting the torque, and I think it does have a special off-road mode. Yes, so the off-road mode can be used over bad roads as well, and the car does raise its ride height. Coming to the suspension on offer, the GLS in India has air suspension as standard. I honestly can't recollect driving a more comfortable SUV than this one. And the air suspension takes good care of all the road undulations very well. Not only that, we have to remember that this car is riding on 21-inch rim setup with 40 profile tires. So considering all of that, it is definitely a great riding SUV and definitely the most comfortable I have driven, particularly on 21-inch rims. So coming to the handling, so we do have to remember that there is no sport mode on offer, as I said before. So the message is very clear, and overall, though this is not a very sporty handler considering the dimensions of the car, but the footprint, 315 mm at the rear, so that amount of footprint is definitely confidence inspiring for any car. And definitely I know there is a staggered setup. The front is not 315, it's I believe 285. So yes, overall these wide profile tires do enhance the handling capabilities of this machine. Right, so the interiors. There's no denying that there is a striking similarity to the interiors of the GLE, which we reviewed some time back. And it's not a bad thing. Overall, it feels very well put together, and typical German quality levels for the segment are noticed. The infotainment gets the MBUX system, which means you can control the infotainment through 4 different ways. One is definitely the trackpad, which I've already reviewed in the GLE. I think it's a good feature to have once you get used to it. Then there are the steering controls. Then we have the actual touchscreen operation. Oops, yeah. And finally, there is voice command as well. In addition to that, the car can also be controlled externally through an app called Mercedes Me, and that activated the voice command. A noteworthy feature is that the GLS comes standard with the very fantastic Burmester audio system. We do get the other features which are pretty much obvious these days, like the wireless charging system. What is something another noteworthy which I wanted to point out is that you get a total of 11 USB-C points. The steering wheel is also of a good size. It is a classic steering wheel. I would have preferred some wooden element over the top, which would have enhanced the character, or maybe have a continuity of the dashboard design on the steering wheel, but not much of complaints. Overall, the visibility is perfect. As I have already said, the car really feels lordly when you drive it. So all in all, a very solid interior, and also it is best experienced at night with all the ambient lighting lighting up the interior to achieve Mercedes' design philosophy of sensual purity. So finally, the rear seat. Mercedes seems to have the best seat engineers in the world, and it definitely feels super premium to be seated in the rear seat of the GLS. And if they say it's the S-Class of SUVs, it surely is, if you say and compare the rear seat. And the comfort levels are supreme, And, I have right now taken the seat absolutely in the front. And this is just to give you a reference of the space and the overall legroom. It's just absolutely fantastic. Whichever way you sit, you're going to be comfortable. And the headrest are really fantastic. In fact, speaking about the headrest, you can control them electronically, and the seats do recline. So this is truly a magical place to be. And it doesn't feel like you're sitting in a SUV. And I have said it previously also that the most comfortable cars are not SUVs but are sedans. So, the overall seating position of the middle row is not exactly feeling like an SUV, but it definitely feels as low as a sedan, but at the same time not too low, and it really cocoons you in a very special way, the Mercedes way. Right, now let's check out the third row. So finally we are in the third row. Preliminary observations, definitely the headroom is good. Many people complain about the headroom in the third row of SUVs. This is definitely on the acceptable levels. The knee room is decent. The toe room is also persistent. But the middle row passengers will complain because this seat has been completely taken forward, also angled forward. So other than that, I think it is definitely usable for large adults, for short journeys as well, and for kids for longer journeys too. Okay, let's talk about the boot. So we get a host of buttons here, starting off with this button which drops all the seats and makes the entire boot space. I think the stat is 2,400 liters. So that really looks good and gives the GLS a good loading area. Other than that, you also get another button which will drop the ride height and make the boot much more practically usable. And for those concerned, yes, you do get a space saver. I wanted to have a quick talk on the negatives, what features I really miss in the interior. First up, the heads-up display. At this price point and for a car in this segment, no heads-up display is definitely non-pardonable. And it's not that the international variants don't have them. Mercedes does offer this internationally, and surprisingly, it is not available in India. And while you're driving fast on the highway, you really need a heads-up display, particularly with 400D engine up front. I really personally miss having a heads-up display. So, not done. Feature number 2, which is missing, is no keyless entry. Thirdly, it's not a feature, but I noticed international variants do have dual sun visors, and whereas this one is a single one. So it's a small point, but such omissions are not really. I don't know why it's omitted for the Indian market. India is a sunny country, isn't it? So I don't know. Dual sun visors would have been slightly helpful for people who do long road trips. And finally, which is the last observation, is the car does not have soft closed doors. So this is something which is, if the GLS wants to be the S class of SUVs, it should have had soft closed doors. And that's been a feature in the S class. It is also available in the 7 Series since the previous generation. In fact, the 5 Series launch edition also had soft closed doors. I mean the G31. So a GLS at 99 lakh 90,000 ex-showroom, I think Mercedes should have been slightly generous in giving soft closed doors to make the customers feel a little bit more special. So finally, to conclude things, if you say that the GLS is a stretched version of the GLE, that would be an understatement. Also, if you say that this is the S class of SUVs, that would be a slight overstatement, to be honest. So, if you judge the GLS with its own individuality and its own positive strengths, you will be sure to realize that it strikes all the right calls, be it the space, which is very generous, be it the comfort levels, which are spot on, or be it the driving experience. With the 400D, it is just wow. And on that note, thanks for watching.